episode of the Moz House podcast. I'm your host, Hunter B. Gunn, and I'm here with our current artist in residence, Dennis RedMoon Darkeem. How are you doing today?
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be on Shinnecock territory and experiencing nature and to be here with you. Awesome.
Well, we are very glad to have you, and it is your first time on a podcast, so I'll try to make this a nice, fun experience and not scar you for life. Although I've done that before.
No good.
So I'll do my best. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do as an artist?
Yes. So I'm an artist, educator, cultural practitioner, activist. My work is I create work about connection to people of color and to land, which is also connected to my background. I'm African American and Seminole, Yamassee, and the idea of being an educator and using my work as a way to create connections and dialogue about history, identity, sovereignty, kind of all of these connections that kind of, to create a nation like the United States, you have to like strip certain people. So this idea of bringing this history back, and just like it was provided for me, I have a lot of elders who's passed down so much information. So I think my work is about continuing what the elders have passed down to me.
So I want to talk about the elders for a second. As someone who also has lots of elders around and lots of people to pass down information to me, I personally feel like I don't have enough storage for everything. Because everyone is storing so much and they're all giving it to me. I try to keep it up. What do you do to store it all? Is it even possible to store everything?
It's so interesting because I think as a young person, I would take these stories and listen, but it's only now that I'm experiencing and seeing things that they begin to pop up, and it makes me understand like this brain and how much I can remember and store. But that's how I use a lot of these connections of just storytelling and like people that I've known, just also trying to remember names and places. So it is a struggle, but I think in my work, I create that process of trying to remember. Yeah.
Very nice. I realized I wasn't going to be able to do it because my memory is not the best, even with just names and stuff. So I came up with the idea. It's kind of a product. Even the podcast is kind of a product. It's like, well, we have lots of oral history, and this would be a good way to at least record some of it so I can go back and not have to remember it all per se, but I can go back and re-listen. So I try to have elders, whenever they feel like it, come in and tell whatever stories they want to tell as a way to try to save some stuff. Whatever they're willing to say to a microphone is very different than what they're willing to say.
Absolutely.
At, like, when you like walk by their porch and they just have something to say randomly. So one day we'll have the whole history. Maybe.
Yeah, pretty powerful though. That's like the idea of keeping these stories and kind of, for your next generation, right? Like you had this privilege, and we have different ways of keeping this knowledge. So I create art. You could, how do we reinvent this kind of legacy that our ancestors, our elders have provided for us?
Very good. For the next generation, if I ever have children, I'm hoping my elders are still around, so they can help teach them some of the stuff I may have forgotten.
Yes,
I pray. So I noticed you have at least 5 sculptures outside, maybe even more.
10, yeah.
10?
Yeah.
Jeez, it's like a scavenger hunt trying to find everything. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the work you've done while on residency so far?
So I just been really inspired by, I guess, like, the history. There's so many books in the library here. So a little bit that I kind of knew, I got a little bit more grounding information from just some of the books in the library, and just being on the ground and seeing some of the photographs and seeing the family and just understanding like, wow, like, I only had my experience from Shinnecock for many years. I was a powwow dancer and a vendor. I was a brass dancer, men's traditional and men's Southern straight dancer. And for about 6 years, I would come here every Labor Day weekend and sell my artwork. So being here in a different capacity of actually making work just to make my work, and not so much having this idea of for sale, I'm looking at what I was doing back then and also bringing it back now. And idea of catchers, dream catchers, and kind of this connection of to welder, the fishermen, the whirlers, and also kind of making these connections to what has been kind of created a popular thing of indigenous culture. So the dream catcher, which kind of was made popular from Asian, monopolizing on taking different things from Ojibwe people, I mean, different cultures. Every tribe had their own kind of weaving connection to dream catchers, catching, and that's kind of what I wanted to bring here with these sculptures. I'm calling them Ma's House Catchers, and it's the idea of thinking about the people who kind of survive in fishing and working with the ships and everything. This idea of being so close to water and that connection of survival. So just kind of allowing people to think deeper than just seeing a dream catcher. Yeah.
Okay,
so that's what these are kind of focusing on right now. Yeah.
Well, I personally really appreciate Dreamcatcher. I have a nice story to tell you. But first, I want to brought the powwow. I think that was probably a good time to discuss it. We talked a second about it before the podcast about how you remember me a little bit. And now that I'm like looking at you, you do look so familiar. I feel like I've definitely met you before.
Yeah.
Or at least seen you before. And you mentioned I wasn't in full regalia. And I just remembered why. Because I had lost my belt.
Oh.
And for some reason, I don't know what it is. Everyone only has one belt. Like I didn't have a belt. It was just a regular belt. And so like the things I use they're kind of like chaps, I guess, made of leather, and you have to have a belt to like have them up. Yeah. And they have like cloths in front and back, like this loincloth thing. Yeah. And I just lost my belt. So I was like, I finally wore my full regalia this year for the first time in a while because awesome. I got a new belt. So I think that's kind of funny. The first time you saw me, cool. And now I have my full regalia.
That's awesome. This powwow.
Yeah, so let's talk about how did you this Shinnecock powwow one of the only powwows you go to, or did you go to a bunch of them?
Oh, so I was an educator in New York City for 15 years. Just took a break from teaching, and during the summers I had an RV, would drive up from New York to Maine and down to Florida, back up to around Shinnecock around this time where around school started. So Shinnecock would kind of be my last big powwow. And then there was like a veterans powwow I did in Salamanca. But during the summers, I would travel too. So many people on the East Coast have a lot of my work from just doing different powwows, getting to meet different tribal people, also meeting a lot of dancers, meeting other crafters, artists. So through this traveling and doing powwows, I was able to, create a community of artists, indigenous artists, and also food activists, people who believed in seeds and preserving seeds and kind of making these connections of not just also a powwow being a place of like, dancing and buying things, but also kind of teaching and then using that space to kind of how has things survived. It's showing these examples how people have preserved certain fruit or trees that we still have today. So, yeah.
Cool. Do you dance competitively at the powwows that you go to?
So, I haven't danced in many years, but I am a competition dancer. I've won at many powwows. I've a couple of powwows here. Well, one powwow here. I was the head dancer for a little bit. Actually, the Satellicot. There was a Pamanaki powwow here in Long Island. I'm trying to remember. I started as a grass dancer for many, many moons, and then I went back into men's traditional Northern style, and then the older I got, I really love Southern straight dance, and I was able to. A lot of my work, I created my own regalia, a lot of my own patchwork, a lot of my own things that I would wear are, some things were gifted to me, but a lot of it, and people would see what I would make and wear, and, oh, can you make me this? So that's how, got more connection and dancing and getting to know a lot of like different dancers in powwow trail.
I am a very poor dancer, so I do not compete. But I try. I'll do like the grand entries and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's even if I tried, now that you've gone into men's traditional a little bit, I would have lost all the competitions because I was one of the few men's traditionals. There's like a solid group that goes every year, but I think now I would not have a chance, unfortunately.
I mean, I focus more on like the last couple of years on just vending and selling work, just because for some reason at Shinnecock every year at the powwow it would just like storm and rain, and it's just like, oh, there's one whole powwow like regalia, so it's like, you know, I would have to come with like 6 to 7 different regalia just because I knew Shinnecock it rains every Labor Day here. Yeah.
Until it doesn't, and then it's like the most dusty experience in the entire world.
And muddy as well. Yeah.
It's hard to decide. You need like 15 minutes of rain. If we just had 15 minutes of rain after powwow was closed for every day, it would be perfect. Yeah. But it either gets too muddy or too dry, and like my full body becomes covered in dust. It's crazy. All right. Okay, so you do a lot of different. You have like your hand in a lot of different mediums of art. Do you have a favorite?
At this time, I really like installation work or public installation work. Being able to look at a space and see how my aesthetic or like how can I acknowledge or, you know, ways I can connect the community, looking at a space and kind of transforming it. And so that's kind of what at this moment, but throughout the years have changed. Like I still love performance and photography. I was big on like, you know, crafting and doing like certain like beading and, you know, weaving and things like that. I still keep that incorporated within my work because that's kind of where I started. So I still have a craft aesthetic that I try to keep somewhat like honor that. Like that hand work of working in, because I know one day I won't be able to use my hands. You know, I won't be able to see this well. So to take this time and really like create what I love and do. Yeah.
So speaking of, I almost forgot to tell my dreamcatcher story. So I must have been 10 years old. And I've always had dreamcatchers in my room throughout the entirety of me being a kid. And I used to get a lot of bad dreams that once I'd be like, okay, well now I need to go put it in the dream or like empty out the dream catcher, and then it would like I wouldn't have maybe placebo effect or a good effect that it wouldn't have the bad dream anymore. So someone new had recently joined the extended family, and I was visiting their house, and they had created a ton of dream catchers, and they hung them up all in the dining room.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know they made them at first, and I didn't notice them at first either, but they were these giant ones made of like these sticks and string. So I was like sitting down at dinner, and I looked up and I noticed there were so many, and I'd always been like really like I like dream catchers, so like I know how I like them to look, like have leather on the sides, like all this, like looking normal to me at least. Just because as a kid, I was like, oh, that. But, so I didn't know who made them, and I was like, these are the worst dream catchers I ever seen. And then it was the person who had just joined the family's dream catchers. And I was like, and then like as I said that, I like looked over and realized that what I had done. I was like, and so trying to save myself, I was like, wait a second, you know what? These aren't that bad. But it was too late. It was too late.
I guess everybody has their own interpretation of how, you know, their dream catcher comes out, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, but I think it's all about the spirit and the energy that goes into it. So, I mean, for your eyes, maybe they just weren't for you, but someone is going to really love them.
Yeah. That was, I just could not believe I said that. So dream catchers have always meant that was always meant a lot to me. I like your dream catchers out there. I think they're in very cool, good spots too.
Awesome.
It's
Thank you.
amongst the trees. It's really nice.
I wanted an opportunity for people to engage. Like you said something about scavenger hunt. So I like this idea of like you can walk around and roam, but you have like pinpoints to kind of like, hey, it's another one. Oh, it's another one. It's a bigger one. So kind of, you know, get you kind of excited. You know, that's in creating that kind of atmosphere.
I like that. Because now next time I go out there, I'm sure I'll find them throughout my journeys to the outside world over there, which is nice.
I think this is a perfect place for them as well. That's why I really like them.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially since we have so many residents and stuff, feel like it will let their. It's very healing for a lot of people. So like whatever's going on in their head at night,
I definitely feel that. Yeah,
get taken, caught in there, and then.
Yeah, waking up to see the deers, I think that's so much healing for me. Like and they just stare at you, and I stare at them, and they just kind of like go back and forth until I move, and then jump. But to wake up and see deer every day, I mean, not everybody probably like that, but for me at this moment, it's really kind of like, because there's no people. So to see deer is pretty amazing. Yeah. I
am a fan of deer, usually, but they do destroy all the plants, which is annoying. Yes. But it's like we got a bunch of pumpkins at my house for Halloween. Within 6 hours, my new puppy was like being crazy, and I was like, what the heck is going on over here? So I go outside, and they're just like, they had just left like a little nub of all 3 pumpkins somehow. Oh, wow. And then, so I was like, what the heck? And I don't like seeing deer at night. Like, if they were just like acting, so like I don't mind seeing deer, like, and I feel like glimpse them, but they're like acting all crazy at night. I'm like, oh God. Might be like one of those ancient myths where the deer like transform into something. But during the day, I don't mind seeing deer. They're not going to transform.
It's so weird because the other night I was just standing outside. It was a nice breeze. And I was like, I thought I heard something, but I'm like, it's just the wind. But then it was like again, and it was like this really heavy breathing, like, and I was like, okay. I listened again, and it happened again. And then I kind of just started walking back. And then the next day I was like, Jeremy, you guys have bears out here? He goes, no. And then so happened the next day I was outside. I see a deer, and the deer is staring at me, and he does the same noise that I heard the night. Mm-hmm. And it was this real, like, and then he did this stomp with his, like his hoof on the ground. And I was like, okay, I guess you let me know you're here, all right? But that moment, I was just like, what is that sound? And just to be in darkness and just hear these sounds, to kind of, like, really make you, like, wonder, like, wait, where are these sounds in the daytime?
What were they doing during that time before? Why do you gotta do it now while I'm outside? Yeah. Just to scare me, I feel like. Oh, so amongst all the other mediums you take part in, let's see, photography, sculpture, painting, sound, performance. Do you have a new art form you want to try?
So I try to combine a lot of research. As an educator, I would always have my students like research and kind of understand what they're creating, or like what is the net connections, who is this connected to. So research is a big thing. So kind of going deeper into research and kind of thinking about how art connects to our brain and our body, thinking outside the idea of, making art with our body, but more or less the organic ideas and kind of shapes and forms our body create every day. Just exploring that and kind of see, does that lean towards video? Does this lead, trying to explore this idea and just kind of, once I have my subject and the research, then I kind of try to figure out how I want to explore it deeper in the sense of not so much the final, but how I want people to see or engage with it, the work. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, how did you discover? Well, I think I know how you discovered Mouse House, but how did you discover Mouse House?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've known Jeremy for many moons, and I don't remember what year it was. I seen him a residency. Oh, like, cool. And then I began to see some of the artists. So I was like, okay, I really should see about applying. So I applied, and he's like, oh, you received it. You received the residency. So that's how I made it here, just applying, but also kind of have a little bit of history here. Shinnecock also inspired me, to come back and see it after so many years, just kind of remember certain things like the Eagle's Nest and all these things, and kind of look for these points of remembrance.
What do you think some of your biggest inspirations as an artist are?
Right now, nature. Just kind of, I live in the Bronx, so sometimes can be a concrete jungle. So traffic, barking dogs, babies. Like it's always, it's noise. So being in a place of like just nature, hearing nature, definitely inspires me to kind of like think about myself in nature and, and just using myself as a part, as the art, our material, our subject, and this idea of connecting with nature. But a lot of my inspiration is coming from honoring, like, because it's hard today to navigate for me sometimes. So I definitely know people who came before me had it really hard. Like, so I don't complain. I know, like, there's racism, there's all this stuff. And I know I'm only dealing with the people, kind of small, but I know my ancestors dealt with a lot more. And I always acknowledge them and kind of what I do, make sure that they're acknowledged, because I know, like, some rooms they would never have been able to walk in today. So I have to remember certain spaces where I have the privilege or the opportunity in being in places that people like me, who look like me, my ancestors would never have had this opportunity. So I definitely use them as inspiration, motivation, as an educator, also just kind of like, we can't forget like the people who came before us, our great grandparents. I know we learned things in school, but there's recipes, there's healing, there's medicine that is important that we should not forget. And living in America can really make you forget these things really fast. So that's also inspiration of just keeping tradition.
Right. Speaking of like recipes and stuff, it is very difficult to remember all the smaller, not necessarily smaller things, it's just things people used to eat all the time, rather than just, because it's part of the history. But with so many other things, especially with so many new things being invented all the time now, I feel like the world's moving at such a pace that it's trying to get rid of the past in a way, so you can just be something new, which is interesting to me. I do like to see what's happening next, but some of my favorite things I've ever had to eat have been recipes on this like very almost destroyed piece of paper from our great grandmother or whomever, and then it's just like the best thing I've ever had in my life. Doesn't make any sense.
And also you also learn about, like, sometimes you're like, oh, there was purple corn, and you kind of like, wait, who had purple corn? And you kind of connect the dots, and you'd be like, wait, how much of what we're eating is science made now, because it doesn't look like what we're eating today. So just kind of remember like how things are changing. Like, I remember as a child seeing certain fruit that was like huge, right? And it just grow in the sun all day. And then today you see these like little, I don't know if they're like fruits that are like, I'm like, should all oranges look the same? Should every apple like? So it's just all of these questions make me connect closer with the elements, connect closer with nature, spirit, our ancestors, all of that, because you will get lost again. Like, and I love innovation. I love what's coming. I always, the future, working with young people just to inspire the future. But also, we cannot, because, if we keep losing, how much are we actually gaining if we're giving so much up to take something new?
Yeah. The whole food thing is very scary, honestly. I used to think about it a lot, how I'll never really, like, know what the stuff tasted like before, because they picked a seed that they thought was good and then, like, modified it so all the seeds had to be the same. And if someone gets, like, caught with your seed by mistake, then you get like sued. Yeah, it's just crazy how they played the long game and really messed up our food supply to do whatever they want to it.
I mean, even farmers, like, it's so sad because I think farmers seem like it's going to be something that's outdated, because you have these companies coming from all over the world. I created artwork in Wisconsin, but the fabricator I used lived in Iowa, and just driving from the airport to their office, and just seeing all of these abandoned farms. Like, it was just miles and miles of abandoned farm. And he explained to me that they can't afford, because there's so many Japanese companies coming producing dog food and soy this and made from corn, that it's all like fake. So they don't really need the farmers to like do anything anymore. So these farmers will just kind of go on to what's next for them. And it's really sad. So that's also just seeing, doing things like residencies gives me another view of the world, because living in New York, everything can see so happy joy because everybody's so diverse and beautiful. But the rest of the world is very much not like that. And you begin to see like what the rest of the world looks like. And some places are beautiful and amazing, but some places are still behind.
For sure. Well, speaking of residencies, I saw you have been part of a ton of residencies. Yeah. I think it was 2013 went back to, I believe. Yeah. Could be wrong on that. How did you get into the world of residencies? So I know a lot of artists honestly don't do residencies, but artists like you and that stay at Ma's house seem to, sometimes it's their first residency, but it's usually number 10, 15, 20, 30.
Yeah, I was a full-time teacher, so budgeting, like not being able to have the time, like teaching from 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, and having my life, and then at night applying to everything and trying to, with this hopes of like, I would, create a space for myself where I can kind of open these doors to kind of see what it is to create work outside of New York City, or outside of like my community, right? And working a lot within my community, we all need to see other things, a part of the world, to see what the work we're doing, how it affects people, how people are educated by it, or how people engage with it. So definitely traveling and seeing other places and things definitely inspires new work, new dialogue, and also kind of building community. But the idea is like traveling definitely inspires how I look at my work, how I look at other work, how I look at community, all of these things. And residencies has become a space where they each have a different story. I'm actually in the process of creating a proposal for an exhibit called The Residency. And it's about the different residencies that I created work at. Also sharing like experiences and stories about different, working with artists, and as an artist and participate in residencies, it's a whole nother life. There's artists who are very driven to create because they have commissions, they have other projects, they have galleries, but then there's like other artists who just kind of go with the flow and so knowing what kind of work you do, you have to find a space that can either fit this work or give you enough space where you can create without feeling limited. And residencies has been that for me, where I can create as large as I want. I can do performance, I can do photography, and not feel limited to actually have to be in this box and be like, you're only going to do drawings, or you're only going to do paintings. And through this process of exploring and going to residencies, it also builds my voice and my vocabulary of what and how I want my artwork to be preserved, how I want my artwork to be exhibited, how I want my artwork to live in spaces where if I'm no longer here, I want to have a understanding where people know where my work would fit in, where it would live, and people would be able to benefit from it. So just understanding the bigger picture. It may look one way at this now, but there's a bigger picture at the end, and that is preserving, because I know others, just like myself, I have benefit from these residencies, fellowships, other artists, other individuals who wanted to preserve, and they, were able to let opportunities happen where artists like me are able to benefit and have space and, have the financial to kind of create as they need and be able to explore their practice and share.
Have you had a favorite location for one of your residencies besides Mouse House, of course, like around the Shinnecock territory? Has there been anywhere you've gone to residency and been like, wow, this place is like amazing, like the surroundings?
There's so many, like definitely here, Shinnecock. This experience, the be a part of nature is amazing. Surf Point in Maine, that just being on the coastal side of things. And waking up to the ocean, and I mean I was there during the winter and just be able to like experience winter, where I think there was like 5 feet of snow, and
wow.
and it's so that was it, and that was I think I did that one around the pandemic time. I believe so. I'm not too sure. It was myself and one other artist, and we barely really seen each other because we were so like busy with what we were doing. So Surf Point was U-Cross, that was in Wyoming, and that's literally in the middle of nowhere, and it's mountains, and you have to walk around with highlighter colors, like bright, because
Hunting season.
Yeah, people are gonna think you're a deer, and they just start shooting. So it's that type of place. But I've been to a lot of amazing residencies. Art Omi was an amazing residency, and it's for different things. Like Art Omi was an amazing residency with connecting with other artists. This is an international, so now I can say I have friends, in different parts of the world, Morocco or Spain or Barcelona. Just to know that I've built community with other artists. They kind of know my work, I know their work. We know, what is their practice about. So that residency art was great for building community. Again, I actually like residencies where I can just focus on my work and what I'm doing. I do like residencies. Well, I think the most has been like 30 people, or is it about 30?
Oh, you're one of those giant residencies?
Yeah, it was pretty big. So there was so many names to remember. There was so many, different styles of art, and for me, that's kind of, I think as much people inspired me, I think I inspired people as well. And I think there I was kind of like one or two of the American artists. So I guess it was kind of like, hey, what are you calling art here in America? And I kind of was like this, representative, and they were, they understood this idea of the connection to African American history, indigenous history, and kind of, these kind of borderline and why it's important not to forget these stories. So yeah.
I've been wanting to do I've never done a residency, but I think one day I would like to. And there's this one in France at this giant, I want to say cathedral, but I don't think it's a cathedral. It's just this giant building, very old, and they have a residency with like a bunch of people go there. It's like, I think it's probably like 15 people at once, but it's very hard to get in. But you have to pay for it.
Oh,
it's like one of those ones. You don't get a stipend. But people who I know who have done that say it's awesome, totally worth it. So one day I would like to do maybe that one. I'd have to start making more money off my art, though. And I don't know what I would do at a residency, because like all my art is like on the computer and stuff. Well, like I record stuff and then sit at the computer and have to like just do that. I don't get to. So I was thinking that maybe I'd like try a bunch of different other stuff, mediums only, none of the things that I work on normally. I would just do like, oh, let me start painting and go find some clay outside and like make something random. Especially since I work with so many artists, I'd want to try some of their things that they've done, and like maybe some things they showed me at their workshop. So, speaking of, you have a workshop coming up in 2 days.
Oh yeah, it is.
What are we doing?
So actually talking about residency, I did another good residency, which is in Orange, Virginia. It's at the Art Center in Orange, and I was able to kind of visit a little bit of like some of their history. Was like James Madison's estate was there, So I got to see, I was always confused, like, what are people visiting here? Like, what's the big thing that everybody saw? And I was just I was just like, it was huge. It was beautiful, but I was just so confused on like, this didn't take like 6 or 7 people to manage all of this land. This was like hundreds and hundreds of people. So just to know about the bodies that like weren't able to come there just because they wanted to come there, who actually had to be there and create, and these people are now visiting. So that experience, and then looking at some of the artwork, or some of the art that was kind of popular at the time, and there was this idea of portraits, kind of who did your portrait, and if it was a painted portrait or if it was a silhouette portrait. So looking at some of this, so that's what I'll be focusing on, this idea of looking at our portraits and kind of creating symbols within our portraits that kind of represent us, maybe past, present, or future. This idea of who are you, and kind of creating these symbols in this portrait, and allow that to kind of just remember, past, present, and future of the person.
Very cool. That's interesting. I'm very excited. That's one of my favorite things about working here at Ma's house, is to get to experience so many different types of art, and I actually get to partake in it in a guided situation, to where I'm just left to my own devices and make something horrible, but make something nice. And the artists always say that everyone's doing such a good job, and I'm like, oh, nice, thank you. I am doing a good job. So it's always a good time. Come to Ma's house workshops. They're every week, and they're free to everybody. Lots of beadwork, and we occasionally, every residency, our artist and residents gets to do another workshop. And well, I want to ask you about your experience with the town outside of Shinnecock. What's it been like for you?
Expensive.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I say to myself, wow, like, again, many moons ago, and just seeing how like everything has gone up so high, and just to see of like where there were just empty spaces is now like huge mansions, So seeing this evolution of, this community, but also the resilience of like the Shinnecock Nation, and like how guys preserve, and you all are like doing an amazing job. And I think there are many people in the community. I took an Uber, and he's talking about, the Shinnecock. He's like, you guys should never lose. They should never lose this, this land. This is so important. And it was so amazing to hear someone, I think he was like from whatever country he was from, but he knew enough information and knew that like you all belong here, and this was your land, and kind of he's a visitor, but understanding that, but just also seeing, how things are changing, and a lot of, people who were babies back then are now, helping the community, are doing things in the community, which is great. So my experience so far has been amazing. I try to keep it as local, just to enjoy my time and use it productive. I want to be productive and create as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. I have a suggestion. You should check out Tate's Bake Shop.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Very old. Everyone loves Tate. You ever seen the green bags of cookies in grocery stores around? There's definitely a bunch of them in the city. That's the original
the
place.
Headquarters. Okay.
It's not even just a little tiny shop.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a nice story. It used to be called Kathleen's, and then they tried to do what's happening now, but they got swindled by this shady businessman. So they took her name, Kathleen's, and so she came back in same spot, changed everything to Tate's, and then started over. And I've been going there my whole life. And then I just one day, I remember I was in Philadelphia. I was living there for like a couple of years, and I was like, what the hell? Tate's Bake Shop. And it was the same cookie. And they're much better fresh from the bakery. Like it's night and day. But even they're good prepackaged, but Definitely check that place out. It's very
Definitely.
small. It's open from like 8 to 4 or something.
That's amazing because
Yeah.
I remember seeing like a bunch of like a Montauk cookie, a lot. So I was like, like what's this connection? But now that makes sense to me. Like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Tate's is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
And it's like 5 minutes away from here, maybe.
Okay.
They're right in the middle of town, near the post office. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, how expensive things have gotten in the past couple of years. Oh my God. I can't even get, like, if I want to get my family breakfast sandwich, like a bacon, egg, and cheese, 3 of them, which are, I will say, it is almost worth the price because of how good they are at this place. It's called Sean's Place.
Okay.
But it's like $35 for 3 sandwiches, yeah. It's ridiculous.
You know how many
On
groceries you
bagels,
get
yeah.
with that?
Yeah. Not much at the Stop and Shop. Yeah.
You're right. You're
Get
right.
like a bag of chips and some sriracha. There it goes. It's definitely we feel the inflation over here.
Yeah.
Which luckily I have a job and I can like keep up with it, but it is crazy how much groceries have changed. Just even New York and then Southampton's like hyper. Everything's just already expensive. You
That's
can't
another
deal with
thing.
much more inflation.
Leaving New York City and going other places and seeing like, wait, I spent $14 on this and then it's there for like $3.95, and I'm like, what is going on here? And yeah, it's New York is really doing. I'm just trying to. I always wonder like. I've seen because for example, the bus. I remember the bus was like $1.20, and then went to $1.25, and now I'm like. I don't remember the bus changing much from when I was like 13 years old to now. And I'm like, but they still, I guess this is the life up in New York. Like you really have to like make as much as you can here.
Yeah, they just I think it was the first time in like 10 years they increased the subway.
Yeah.
Like a couple months ago. I was like, what the hell? I know why everyone just jumps over, but
Now I see that a lot. Yeah.
It's because it's so expensive. Like when you think about it, it's a very cheap and easy way to get around, worth the $2. But if I was living in the city every day, having to take $5 to $10 worth of subways, that adds up extremely quickly, and it would be like over $100-something a month, which is a lot for public transport when we could theoretically have that for free for everybody, or $1. I feel like $1 would be nice. And then one other giant thing of inflation, I think, is very strong in like major cities. I guess the price of haircuts have gone up a lot. And like, so if we went to Wyoming, haircut's not gonna be $50 before tip for like a regular haircut. But in New York City, I would say like LA, Atlanta, like anywhere where there's any like street culture, haircuts have gone up a ton. Even here now, which is like crazy, $50 for a haircut for everybody. I'm like, what the hell has happened here?
I think it's weird because I feel like haircuts have, well, in the Bronx, I feel haircuts have become an experience.
Yes.
Depending on where you go, and depending on who's cutting your hair, you can get like a whole sing along,
The gentleman's package.
you can get, and it's saying to myself like, wait, am I really paying for this haircut? Am I paying for all this extra? And I feel like, there's people I know who's like, oh, you got to make an appointment and it's $55. I'm like, I can cut my hair, all of this in like 5 minutes. But at the end of the day, you want to look good. I get it. You want to be presentable, but you question because something's so ancient as a haircut. You're like, how are people doing it? You have 4 or 5 kids that need haircuts.
Yeah.
It's like, y'all got to take it.
Get $200. Yeah, I can't.
Turns, like, who's getting a haircut this week?
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Although I do love my barber, and he is amazing. He like has these like special glasses and like this light and like this monocle thing, and he'll like do. I actually am probably gonna get a haircut very soon because I need one. He like does like when he shaves, he does like one hair at a time sometimes, and I'm like sitting there like, is this over yet?
Yeah.
But it takes a long time now, and I can't imagine that barbers. It's been around. Cutting hair has been around forever.
Yeah.
They can't be much better than they were 20 years ago, but now they're charging $30 extra. Even like 10 years ago, if we'd be able to go in high school, go get the same haircuts we're getting now for $20, $15 before tip, $25 after tip, and it'd be the same things they're doing, but there wouldn't be like the experience or whatever. And I wouldn't be in a chair getting spun around so they could record me for Instagram. I hate that. Yeah, it's like they do such a good job. You're like, oh god, here it comes. They take out their phone, like, ready to record. I'm like, I guess you don't know what to. I don't never know how to look. Like, do I just look straight? I look directly at the camera. What do I do at that point?
It's like, this must be the best haircut ever. Yes. I can't wait.
And then you look in the thing and you have like a bald spot. You're like, what the hell? They posted this?
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Sorry for that tangent we just went on.
No problem.
But okay, so I wanted to ask you a little about. I think you call it sound, but I would call it like your music and stuff. How do you make that? What programs do you use?
So sound, I'm usually either recording in wherever I'm at. So it's literally my phone, just recording. But I also have been recycling sound. So I also believe in like, for people not to forget certain things, you have to keep it in rotation. So, sounds that I grew up with, may it be like music my parents were playing, music that I would hear at a powwow, music, the doctor's office, whatever it is, it all creates memory. And I'm trying to kind of create this memory that you can either forget or you can remember. And this idea of sound can do that depending on how it connects to space. So a lot of the sound is I've recorded myself, but I enjoy mixing sounds that we wouldn't think work together. And then I consider that the new sound, but it's also storytelling is also what I'm trying to do, is trying to create this something from flute music or to something of wind blowing to drops of rain. And how does this make you feel? Right. And it's all about this emotional connection. I have this within most of my work is, what does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it make you think? And I have to, because that's how I travel and navigate, like what's connected to my emotion and how it's allowing me to feel. So sound is something pretty new. I'm still experimenting with it, but it's all in connecting storytelling. And I'm trying to, through my photography, through performance, these sounds that I'm collecting, I want it to kind of work parallel with some of this imagery or this video.
Oh, I see. Very cool. What do you edit the sounds at all? Like, what program are you using?
Well, I was using, like old school Garage.
GarageBand?
Yeah, and I felt like when I was just learning it, people were like on to the next. So I felt like I kind of mastered, and I just started playing around and using it to where it was easy for me to navigate and do like little edits and cuts and things. But that's why I said I'm still experimenting with sound, because having the opportunity to go to different residencies. I was in Connecticut before I came here at a residency called iPark, and they had it was visual artists, dancers. There was also composers. So getting to meet some of the composers, I was able to kind of get little tips and techniques in doing things, but also broaden my understanding of things, because composers, there's all labels, right? Labels can mean anything, but one of the composers was actually creating a video game that was cool. About depression. It was about depression and anxiety, and how his name is Fong, and he's a composer in Brooklyn, and his work, I was very inspired because it allowed me to look at video games differently than actually like trying to get to the next level. But this was more of like me just being in a space where I'm navigating and kind of using colors to kind of, either make me feel higher or lower. And that's, what does that mean? But as playing that game, that's kind of how I was feeling in this moment of feeling really like, oh, I'm moving really fast and then moving really slow, but I was able to be present at that moment. And that was pretty powerful. Yeah. And just to see how he's using sound to also, as a component, composing sound within this video game to kind of work with your kind of emotions, and also like, again, he's being inspired by depression. So it's either how do you navigate this depression? How do you navigate these different ideas around how do we deal with it or live with it, kind of.
Cool. I have recently discovered this rhythmic, I guess I would describe it as like a rhythmic psychedelic horror game. Mm-hmm. Very cool. You're just like this bug, and you're going down this like metal slide very, very quickly. And you have to like press buttons to like jump and go. Yeah. But like everything you do creates music with. So like if you do everything correctly, it creates like this crazy, eerie, dark song while you're doing it. It's very fun, and it goes by very quickly. There's not really a story that I can tell. It's just like you're just like flying through this weird world. But if I want to suggest to you a program called DaVinci Pro, or just DaVinci. DaVinci, okay. Because it's a video editing app or program. It's free. There's a free version that's very good that I used for a long time before I upgraded. But it has several tabs, has a great lighting tab, and an amazing audio editing tab. Okay. So you can, especially if you're doing like the photos and the videos combined with the audios, it is a great
Thank you for
place to use both of them, because that's what I use too, honestly. Okay. And especially when I like am making videos with other artists, like I need to make special sounds, put in music. I can edit, and I even edit the podcast in there just because it's for video, but the audio, things you can do with the audio there is amazing. And,
okay, definitely, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and you just need one app instead of you got to edit the video or the photos, and then you can just put them all together in that program and make it work. Excellent. So you're looking for a new program.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it didn't take me too long to learn, although.
Is it free? Is it free?
Yeah, DaVinci. Cool. It's called DaVinci Resolve. It's free. All right. And a lot of programs cost like annual or monthly fees.
Yeah, It
does not have that. It's just a one-time $300 for the Pro full version, which is really just special video like editing stuff, like like transitions and stuff, like very powerful. Takes a lot of like computer power transition stuff, like things like that is what is included in the full version. Gotcha. But like for audio editing, there's like nothing you need in there. But if you're making like music, I would use FL Studios. But if you like use that or the GarageBand, whatever, I just like FL personally. It's fun. Yes. So I have a couple more questions. No problem. Oh my God, we're at 52 minutes already. Which is pretty good. So, do you ever find yourself in a creative rut? And if you do, how do you get yourself out of it?
Yeah, it's so weird because I think, I think that's kind of when I came. Well, I had certain ideas that I wanted to do, things that I wanted to accomplish. So I came with these materials to create certain things. But it was me challenging myself. So I'm like, what am I doing different here? And I think trying to use the space and use this experience and just being, also inspire how everyone communicates, through their work, or just using this as inspiration and to kind of get out of my head. So I think that's where it starts for me overthinking and thinking and overthinking things, where it can kind of like, I want this message to come through, but then it's like, is it too in your face or is it too far? So just getting the right formula of how can be overwhelming sometimes. Is it done? Is it not done? Like, just questioning, but that also just comes to like how I wake up in the morning and it's like, you know what, this is what you're going to do today. And kind of once I get those things done, it allows me not to overthink too much, because I start with a checklist and check them off. And then once I got these done, I'm on to the next thing. So I don't have to think about it too much. Then I can revisit it, and then I look at it different. And I look at something different within that. When I just kind of leave it, move on, and revisit. And instead of me looking at something, keep overthinking it, and then like, oh, I want to add blue. No, put it away, come back, think of it, and, you know, give it some more space, you know, and see.
Very cool. Do you have a work that you're most proud of?
Oh, wow. I'm definitely, I had work at Amtrak in
Yes, I saw that.
in the Rotunda, and that was like a compilation of past gathering paintings and photographs and kind of, you know, creating a collage that took up a full collage that took up a space that kind of allowed me to kind of do what I do, you know, what I love to do. And there was a little bit of like honoring, you know, the elements and acknowledging the medicine wheel. Like, it was all of these things that I definitely wanted to touch to kind of, you know, just to make people question, like, what is that, right? And then they research and find. So that's a lot of my work. I want people to research and kind of like dig and question, like, you know, and I think a lot of the time when I do my performance, I kind of cover myself sometime, and it's more or less to take my skin color, my identity, me out of the equation, and you just look at this figure, this image, this art, you know? And I think a lot of the time people, because of everything, America, you know, it's hard for people to not, they always see race and they can't see anything else because that's what we've been taught. And a lot of the time, race is all made up. Like, half the stuff we know, it's all stereotypes and it's all things. So not to go too far, but the idea is definitely research and kind of really, you know, don't keep saying the same thing that your great grandparents. Do the research and kind of understand, because, you know, I think, you know, my grandma will always tell me, eat the chicken and leave the bones. And it's kind of like, take what's important. And if it doesn't resonate, then don't give it too much energy. Yeah.
That's a good quote. For some reason, when we first started, I wrote a question here. I was like, I was going to ask you if you had a favorite quote. But before I ask you, let's have a water break.
Mm-hmm.
Is that seltzer?
It's just regular water.
Are you a big fan of seltzer?
I do like seltzer.
I love seltzer.
Yeah.
I would love to have a seltzer sponsor for the podcast.
Ooh, how amazing would that be? It can happen.
Mm-hmm. I need to start making some calls, honestly.
Yeah.
I need to get on that. I watch Schweppes. That's my favorite. I even make my own seltzer at home.
Ooh.
Because
Very
get like
cool.
fresh lemons and shit. And I'll go like, cut the lemon juice, squeeze it in.
You're going to start
Very
something
crazy.
there. That's,
Yeah.
you know, they're listening. So give them ideas. Let them know.
I'll pitch the advertising right now.
Yeah.
Word from our sponsor. I love seltzer so much. Thank you for sponsoring. That would be, that's a little sneak peek to all the seltzer companies I'm sure are listening to this right now.
Yeah. I hope they are.
Oh God. Yeah. I've had this stupid cough for like the past 3 podcasts. It's very annoying. I don't know what's wrong. It just won't go away. But one day. Speaking of old recipes for like medicine, drinking a lot of like lemon tea, where you put like the lemon in the boiling water when you pour it in to like just the full lemon peel, and then you squeeze half the lemon in there.
Yeah.
And that definitely helps.
And you add some honey in there.
Yeah, and the honey, exactly. Which is very good at the time. I keep meaning to bring it to the podcast, because then I don't cough at all while I'm drinking that. Like, it's just, everything's all better. Yeah, it's just, my life is having a perpetual cough for the past month. All right. So, do you have, I have a couple more questions for you. But it's already, we're hit an hour. So, do you have a favorite quote? And what is it?
It's so weird because I have one, and it's just like, where are you? I just skipped my mind right now. But I think I'm gonna use like the quote that like my grandmother used to say, this idea, eat the chicken and leave the bones, just because the older I get, I learn like people are people, and you know, I gotta deal with people every day. So the idea, we all are short of something. And I know sometimes we all can be very hyper and very critical and very, but at the end of the day, people are people. And I'm learning this every day. So I always just have to remind myself, just eat the chicken and leave them bones, right? Don't pay too much attention to, you know, what people don't know or what they think they know, I guess. But just pay attention on my own focus and my own direction. And I think that's how I inspire other people to do amazing things as well. And that's, you know, I want to inspire just like people inspire me. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have, well, I guess, what was the most challenging piece of art you had to create? Even if it was performance or anything.
Ooh. So I guess most recent, I guess let's go with the most recent. The most recent was I did like in honor of the ancestors. It's a piece in Connecticut and it's in a sculpture park. I didn't want to make this like, oh, nice piece of artwork. I wanted to make something that actually like made people like stop. And the piece was called, and it was through research honoring, the piece was to honor, because a lot of the land it was a massacre that happened on a lot of the properties that were that's near located to this park, and it was to let people know like these things are beautiful here, but we can't forget how much blood was shed for for you to be here and just be walking freely, and I think for me it's something everywhere I go, like to think about who's buried, what bones are under me, and to acknowledge them because one day my bones are going to be somewhere. You understand? And so all of this is very important to me. And I think that was one of the most challenging, just to think about, like, as I'm digging and, all of these things, to know about how much energy was put into this land for other people to own it today and don't have to acknowledge that history. So I think that was a little struggle for me to kind of wanting to not be like, but to just be like, don't forget. But yeah, so I would just leave it. Yeah, that piece. Yeah. Okay.
I got two more questions for you. Is there anything that I should have asked you about that I didn't?
I guess art is what I love to do, but lately, writing. So I've been documenting a lot of my experiences to kind of create, like we talked about this, like a vessel for the future. Mm-hmm. So using some of my experience, like residencies, just navigating, like, and being like an indigenous man on the West Coast from the East Coast. Like, what does that really feel like? Or being a brown skinned indigenous person, like all of these things that people, I guess, don't want to talk about or hard for them to talk about. I think I'm going to use a lot of my writing and art to kind of just make sure, like, young people who, because I know for me, finding community and understanding who's who, because not everybody who looks like you is for you. So understanding this idea of knowing and how to understand community and not having to, like, but people who are like roaming around and like doing things that are not like, that's not traditional. And that's a big thing for me. I'm not a gatekeeper of who should do not and what people who should not do. And I don't really kind of deal with people who do that. Because at the end of the day, we all learn different ways, and we just have to just remember, like, why we're here, and it's to take care of us, yourself. So being in other people's business, it's just sometimes it's just know why you are here and what's your mission, and sometimes just that's a whole lot what I just said, but the big thing is writing and just keeping stories that are important to me that I experience and share those. So that's kind of maybe the question of what's but what you doing next? So I guess that's my next thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I got one more question, and then I have a little surprise because yesterday was Halloween, and I don't know about you, but I didn't really celebrate too much. We had work the next day, stuff to do.
Yeah.
But okay, so now that I've asked you a million questions, do you have any questions for me?
I guess in the sense of like, I believe everybody's an artist, right? And I guess the same question for you, I guess, like, you an artist? You are an artist, right? How do you see, like, what you do living for the next generation? It's a pretty broad question, but like, how do you see what you're working on now, today, at this moment? How does it benefit, I guess, the next generation?
The next generation? Yeah.
I mean, kind of answered that earlier, I guess.
I'll say, I think, in terms of the work right now, how that will be, since a lot of things we do have been documented, and we have this space, I think eventually we'll have more and more younger generations coming to the art galleries and even participating in the art shows that we have, the exhibits we have here, which would be cool. So, and I'll be documenting their work, and a lot of artists you have now, a lot of stories to tell as people, if I document their work. Even if the kids now have no idea, don't care about art or any of these people, when they do start caring about art, if they do, it will be there for them and ready for them to learn and see other people who look like them often, how they made careers at art and what they were going through and how they've kind of paved the way for the next generation.
Awesome.
And for my future work, my goal is to make a Batman movie. That's what I would like. Yeah, that's like the end goal. Then I'm like, you know what? Then I can start doing crazy things. But until I make a Batman movie, they're like, okay, Hunter, you've been picked as director. Make your movie. Then I won't be doing anything too crazy. Unless it will help my publicity to make people want me to be the Batman director.
Keep saying it. It will happen.
Yes.
Put it out there. Yes. Manifest it. Yes.
I have already my plans for it.
Awesome.
All right. So for Halloween, I gave out, we give out candy, but I discovered these last year. Pokemon has like these packs you're supposed to give out on Halloween with the candy. So
trick or trade. This is cool. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Awesome.
To end the stream, I thought we could open our pack together.
All right, go.
So they're trick or trade. It's like $20 for 50 packs that you give out to like kids on Halloween night. And it was really funny yesterday. These like kids showed up.
It comes with more than one.
And my mom was like home, and I told her, "Oh, start giving out the Pokemon cards." And she said all the kids were like, "Pokemon cards!"
They went crazy for them.
Yeah, they were going crazy. Oh, nice. I got myself a nice shining Pikachu.
Oh, wait. Is this... You have a Pikachu? Wait, is that your highest point?
No, I guess actually. I guess my highest point is this ghost guy. Oh, you have the first evolution of my guy I have here. The Drifloon. I have Drift Brim.
Yeah, this is 70 years. This is 110.
This is 110.
Yeah.
Do you want to trade?
Yeah.
The middle guy? That one? Because then you have both the evolutions. There you go.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect.
I don't... Do you know... Like, I know this is pretty special, right?
Yeah, it's called a hollow.
There you go. Yeah. Because my students taught me a little bit about Pokemon. So, and they would, like... Whenever I seen, I was like, I guess that's a good one. They was like, yeah.
I really enjoy opening Pokemon cards. I feel like it's just like fun for my inner child.
It. Yeah.
So I would never buy them as a kid. I mean, I would get a lot of Pokemon cards as a kid, but I always like would go to like Walmart and be like, I want a pack. It'd be like $6 for a pack. Yeah, it was just expensive for like 30 seconds of like, look what I got.
Yeah. It's so weird because I remember one time you seen so many Avatar, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z costumes.
I love Dragon Ball Z.
And now I'm like, I don't know if I've seen any. Like, this Halloween, you usually see I don't know what was the big costume this year.
Let's see. I would say for like adults, I would say probably like Barbie
Yeah,
situation,
yeah, the
like Ken and
movie.
like all that.
Yeah, right.
For kids, I don't know. I guess like now I know Ash, like the original Pokemon series just ended. Ash is no longer the main guy.
Okay.
Dragon Ball has nothing going on. Yu-Gi-Oh's a different guy. For kids, probably like maybe like Five Nights at Freddy's is like really because they just had that movie. I would say that's been pretty popular.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see this.
Fortnite is always a big thing. I'm sure people are dressing up as Fortnite as children right now.
Yeah.
And like the classics like vampires. I dressed up as Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid a couple times. Got that little crazy wig.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has changed like Halloween now. It's what I grew up with being a mummy or, something. Now it's like, you don't even know, like, you have to like.
People have like pictures. You have to like show people a picture so they understand what you are.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Johnny from this one scene in a random movie from 7 years ago.
That's very true. I've seen that.
I want to be, I think next year maybe I'll be like Ferris Bueller. He's a fly guy. Or like Marty McFly. Some fly white guy from the 90s would be kind of cool. Because they always had those cool jackets.
Yeah.
Those like very good. Or like, of course, going back to like, in this one scene, Miles Morales, like it was one Spider-Man, he had like these shorts and like this puffer jacket over his suit that he was like flying around the city and it was kind of cool.
That's one of the moments you say, you have to remember this.
You gotta remember when he wore this. Don't you know? Yeah, so people, I guess, get very niche now with their
hot glues and everything. And like, can't buy it, you can make it.
Yeah, people do. Yeah, people are really into like dressing up as things all the time. Like cosplay is like such a big thing now.
Yeah.
Even like Comic-Con was just like this month also.
It was like not that long ago.
Yeah, which I went to on Thursday. A lot of people were dressed up, but not as many as last year. But I only went on like a Thursday, so everyone that had something to do was not at Comic-Con.
Yeah, you got to go on the weekend. That's when it's like.
I did last year, but one of my best friend's birthday parties was in the city that weekend, and it was like this Friday, Saturday situation, and we were going to go Sunday. But me and my friend who were going to go, we were like, we can't go to the birthday party 2 days of craziness and then go to Comic-Con, which closes early. Get there at like 10 a.m. Not hapening. So we're like, I guess we'll go Thursday. First day to open, which there was actually a Dragon Ball panel, and they released news that they're making a show about turning them into kids, every single person. So I was very upset. And they kept showing the commercial on the big screen. I was like, what have they done?
So they already have like a promo for it.
Yeah, it was quick. It was like 30 seconds, and you just see everyone as a kid. So I think it's going to be like a kid's show, which is interesting. Could be good for the next generation to get them into Dragon Ball. Because I'm a big fan. All right, well, we're at an hour 15.
Awesome.
We've reached the end. You've made it to the end of your first podcast. And now...
Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah.
Have fun.
And now the floor is yours to promote anything you have coming up. You can give shouts to any like organizations, yourself, plug all your social media and stuff. People can find you and talk to you, buy your art.
Yeah, definitely everyone go to my website, RedMoon Darkeem. I have a couple of things coming. I have a show right now at the Old Stone House Gallery in Brooklyn. Working on a couple of commissions that will be coming up soon. Just look out for those. But follow me on Instagram, see what I'm working on. I got a lot of holiday things coming up, so I'll be around.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was great to have you on. Hopefully it wasn't too horrible. And to everyone who made it to the end, the listeners, thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode of the Mouse House Podcast.